Halicue, and welcome back to the Hey, It's Halicue podcast. This is a podcast created for Black women of the 92% by a Black woman of the 92%. My name is Halicue. I'm a thought leader and a content creator for us, Black women of the 92%. Welcome back. Who are we? The 92% are the Black women who didn't just vote for democracy in 2024. In the aftermath of that bitter defeat, turns out we actually voted to put ourselves first, begin amalgamating political power and our power as a collective consciousness. Yeah, the election helped to name us because it really does refer to an actual number. If you follow me on socials, you know that I love this chart and I use this chart like all the time to point out, yeah, it represents something. This is voting data, and it's broken out by demographic. And yeah, right there, 92%, that's us Black women. And so it's an A. Unbelievable turnout numbers for a demographic group in an election. And it ain't nothing new. We've been doing it for years. So yeah, when I say 92%, in a way, the election helped name us. But the 92% movement, the real movement, started way, way, way before that. It began centuries ago when Black women were enslaved and then trained systematically, generationally, even spiritually, to overwork ourselves, to accept less, to at the same time be cheerful and make everybody comfortable while at the same time being invisible and non-confrontational. And first and foremost, to always accept that it is our place to come last, sometimes even in our own homes. But Black women of the 92%, we say no more. This is a lot more than just politics. This is a full-bodied, full-throated revolution. This is joy. This is rest. This is softness. It's ease. Why? Because all of those things are radical. I love the sound of that. Radical ease. Oh my God, I'm gonna write that down. This is how we reclaim everything that they said we'd spend the rest of our life on this earth earning. I'm so happy to be in digital community with you. I am dedicated to Black women and our wellness, physically, spiritually. And so I always like to add some elements, some healing modality that is totally for free and that we can take with us and use. I love affirmations. I love mantras. They're powerful healing modalities. And these are the ones that I came up with for us for this episode. I want you to take these with the love and care that they are given. My gift from me to you. I am not the labor. I am the light. What I can't repair, I can still release. My joy is holy and my rest is revolutionary. Now, 90%, I want you to take that with you and let it nourish and soak into the nervous system. Now we got a new podcast segment. It's called This Week in Joy. So in This Week in Joy, I want to talk about something that I've been watching bloom. There's this really quiet little wave that's making me smile like every single time I scroll. The internets have already named it the rise of the enlightened Black man, which is interesting when you think about it. I like the serendipity of this kind of coming to the fore immediately in the wake of Black dandyism and the Met Gala and that beautiful artistic celebration of Black masculine style. And so who are we talking about when we talk about these enlightened Black men? We're talking about creators like Deante Kyle from the Grits and Eggs podcast. By the way, I'm putting it out in the universe. I am going to interview Deante Kyle. And I'm saying this, and he's a podcaster. The name of the podcast is called the Grits and Eggs podcast. In general, I stay out of men's business, but he is really impressing me. I see snippets all over. I started listening to as much of the podcast as I can. I really, 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 really like his style. And he is having a moment, and he had a controversial moment last week. So creators like Deante Kyle, Marc, Lamont, Justin Scott, they're Black men that are showing up online with integrity, emotional fluency, tenderness, and protectiveness about Black women. That's it, right? Us. Black women at 90% without some bitter aftertaste. Like it seems like they mean it wholeheartedly. Honestly, it's been the protectiveness part that has touched me and really made me sit up and actually pay attention. The thing that's really heartening is that they've been showing this understanding that it's not their job to be centered necessarily in our lives, right? Like it's totally giving this kind of divine masculinity in alignment, which feels like it might have the potential to come into balance with a movement like the 92%. Do you get what I'm saying? They're not there yet. They got a lot of work to do there. But It looks like something that's coming, oh my gosh, and it is so amazing to me, and it makes me feel so joyful. And go check some of these videos out, especially Marc Lamont Hill. We all know Marc Lamont Hill. Like, and I'll be honest, I ain't always been a fan. Y'all know I'm still recovering from Black respectability politics. Like, I'm Gen X. Y'all got to remember that. I may look a little younger than I actually am, but no, 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 no. Like, I'm still recovering from some of that stuff. So there have been times I have not always agreed with Marc Lamont Hill, but my goodness, since they brought him on to the Joe Budden podcast, I have so much empathy for that man, and Black women of the 92%. We should have empathy for Marc Lamont Hill, because I'm sure each and every one of us has had a situation where we have had the undue burden of being the smartest person in the room and having to deal with the least of these intellectually. You understand what I'm saying? I'd be watching him and trying to figure out, like, how on earth am I even supposed to have a conversation with someone that doesn't, like, acknowledge fact and considers the fact that they've read books and they do their research, like, on YouTube or whatever, is trying to have an argument with me, Marc Lamont Hill. Oh my goodness. I felt so much empathy for him. Oh, and there's another one, like little Justin Scott, not little Justin Scott, but he's a young man. But I have to tell you, in his cadence and in his delivery, it is very much giving Brother Malcolm. He has this wonderful way of putting these issues that we deal with, and sometimes we spend an inordinate amount of very toxic levels of time and intensity talking about things like these gender wars, the dysfunction in the Black family. He has this wonderful way of always zooming out, starting from the issue that is consuming us and eating us alive as a community from the inside, and zooming out and giving us societal and scientific context and historical context. It's wonderful. And then there was a great live between him and Deante Kyle. And I'm telling y'all, I'm a womanist. I'm the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter of 6 sisters. I don't have any brothers, and I've got 2 daughters. My world is very woman focused. I've never even had a man for a boss, like back when I was like working for other people and like big nonprofit, because the fields that I worked in, domestic violence, sexual assault, reproductive health, was dominated by women. So I just don't know nothing about men except for the one that I love and that I married. But these gentlemen, it's given me some hope. I ain't really had much to say about our brothers. Like, I wasn't happy with that. The 77, they say it's closer to 80 something percent, but like when I was growing up at 80 something, anything under an 85 was C. And more Black men voted for Trump than they did in the last election. So I've decided, I was like, I'm gonna just shut up about this, because my husband is from the mountain of Caucasus and I'm raising Black biracial. So I'm like, this is not my business. I'm gonna stay out of my business. But this illustrates the thing that is so beautiful about this rise of the enlightened Black man, and one that's not afraid to use his platform to show how intellectual and how emotionally healthy they are. The thing I love about this is it arose on its own. It makes me think, like, there've been so many times and so many instances where we as Black women would, on social media or like in our communities, rush to the front, and this is how you need to do this, and this is how you need to take accountability, Black man, and this is how you need to do it. And no matter how well we mean it, or with how much love we may mean it, I could see how that comes across. This is for men to do, for them to work out. And look what happened when we were just minding our business. 92%. When these attacks come out of places like the White House, once a week, y'all's stunt queen of a president likes to issue some proclamation or throw down some executive order doing something very overtly racist in terms of policy or way of dealing with or referring to us, that's meant at all times to just keep feeding the base, right? He may be the most corrupt president in the history of the country, with Eric and Don, handling the crypto grift. They just wheel him out there, let him talk about tariffs when he has no idea what he's talking about, making the market go like up and down. So he's screwing up the economy and he's fucking with people's money. But, we're going to be overtly racist just to make sure, MAGA like understands we still got the foot on our neck. And so as a part of that, they'll pay one of their influencers online to say something like Black fatigue or whatever. I also think they pay Black influencers to keep these gender wars up. Honestly, to keep these gender wars up, is always something new about Black men versus like Black women, or celebrities are doing something crazy that pits us against each other. But these last couple of times, Black women have been like, yeah, we're not going to defend the fact that we're human. Like, we're over here taking care of ourselves. We got us. Y'all work it out yourselves. And what happened when we took care of ourselves, sat in our stillness, and didn't throw ourselves on the altar of whatever the fight was. Look what happened. To me, it's just more proof that the 92% movement, centering our rest, our joy, prioritizing ourselves, saving, preserving, and even protecting ourselves from these bad faith arguments that are meant to harm us. That's the reason I think I got so much joy out of the 2025 being the year of the enlightened Black man. And now it raises anticipation. People are looking for it. People are like, what other content are they going to give us? Are they going to get a bigger platform? Are they going to get shows? Will this influence other young Black men? It's really wonderful. It's great to see. Seriously, when Black women, we sit in our stillness, our sovereignty, our softness, without trying to fix and rescue everyone, sometimes people actually rise. You know, we can stop dragging, we can stop explaining, we can stop trying to heal folks who refuse the medicine. And sometimes it's not even for us to administer the medicine. That's the wonderful thing about this cohort of enlightened Black men. They're the ones administering the medicine, and that's probably as it should be. We as Black women, 92%, like we are promising ourselves that we're going to prioritize ourselves, our peace. We do that, and look what happens. Some of our men start remembering who they are too. And that gave me joy this week. And now that we bathed in joy, let's go a little deeper. 92% movement. We may have been named in 2024, but it started long before that. Like it started with the great crime, the theft of Black humans from Africa, and subsequently the theft of Black women's humanity. Our ancestors weren't just enslaved, they were used to breed wealth, to birth a workforce. And from that atrocity, a lie was born that Black women were meant, built, and created to just endure, to serve, to suffer, to always make do, to be grateful for scraps. And that lie, it couldn't stay in the past. It got passed down, right? It's coded into our DNA, it's etched into our nervous systems. And let me share a moment that I return to very often. My grandmother, Halicue. Y'all know I like to show y'all Grandma Halicue. I'm a namesake. That's my Grandma Halicue. My Grandma Halicue, the woman that I'm named after, had 14 children. I think my dad was like number 13. And at big family gatherings, when we would go to her house, I remember so many things. Like, first of all, that she lived down a dirt road that somehow had grown up on the side so you could like see tree roots. The dirt was blood red, and her house was out in the country. And at those big family gatherings, like it felt really segregated. Like the wives were over here, the kids were all running around. I mean, I was always nervous because, to be honest, like I was growing up in Hattiesburg, which is like a university town. I did not always feel comfortable like being out in the country for real. But I remember watching women were always working the whole time to feed everybody. And then when it's finally time to eat and come in, I'll never forget the first time, or at least I was old enough to see that when we come in to eat, the men first. And so they eat in a wave, and then the children eat in a wave. And the women who made the meal, who were responsible basically for the whole day, ate last. And even as a child, that struck me, you know, that stayed in me. Like I knew that was not right. This was my first real life lesson and what Black women are taught to accept, even within our own families. And it doesn't end there. I very recently heard a Black woman on TikTok say that even now as an adult, she feels anxious sitting still when somebody walks into her room. I really got that. I learned very early on, like right after my mom's divorce, when my mom came in, you needed to be up doing something. You were cleaning up, you're in the kitchen. So I would instinctively start getting up and like moving around. Seriously. So as a girl, if adults saw you resting, you might get hit. You really might. Stillness for us, for Black women, is suspicious. That rest is lazy. It's safer for us when we're in motion, when we're working. And that is the inheritance that we are breaking. And that is why I feel the night of the 2024 election, when Kamala Harris, one of the most accomplished Black women this country has ever produced, she was firmly rejected. Something cracked open for us Black women. That heartbreak was deep because a lot of us, like me, didn't even want to be optimistic. It hurt very badly, but for a lot of us, it was very clarifying. It was the moment we said no more. I remember it because it was the moment I went viral. I just went and sat down in front of the camera and I responded to something a white woman said on TikTok. She said, right after the election, what can we do? What can we do to make Black women feel safe? Y'all, I was so through. And then something came poured. I just walked dead-eyed, naked face to the camera, y'all. My face was so dry. I didn't have nobody's makeup, nothing. It just went to the camera. response. And then my jaw unhinged and like my disappointment and my soul and my anger came out. But the wonderful part about it was I realized that like Black women all together, that was the moment we said no more waiting to be chosen, no more hoping to be protected, no more dragging the whole world and the whole country towards healing. Black women are the 92%. We use that number and we walk through a portal. That's what the 92% is, not a trend. It's a threshold. It was a decision to stop reenacting the conditions of our grandmother's pain. And I feel like I'm seeing it in lots of different iterations since the election. However we get there, whatever, just end up where it says on the ticket. We're taking a hard exit we're taking out of survival mode. And we're doing it to reclaim the full spectrum of our humanity for our first time as Black women in America. And that's a big deal. You know why? Because more than any other group, we have poured just by nature of our bodies and the way our bodies function. Black women have soaked the soil of this country with more blood and more sweat than anyone else. And we've never been able to experience the fullness of our humanity here. So, yeah, it was about an election. But now I know after that election, a lot of us, 92% of us, feel free to feel, to flourish, to rest. And even though we are living through this crazy administration, speaking of y'all's administration, and I'm gonna get back, do y'all know they was fighting at the White House? Did y'all see that little petty goodbye party the stunt queen in chief threw for Elon? Made him stand up there. You know when people can't stand you? I remember this when I used to work for a paycheck. Like somebody you couldn't stand. Finally, they leave one way or another and you show up at that party happy. If you were the supervisor and finally somebody you couldn't stand is moving on, you order that cake with such relish. That's exactly what they did for Elon. But apparently Elon and the Secretary of the Treasury got into it. Nuck if you buck, battle bots, move bitch, get out the way. Elon had a straight black eye and then they was lying about it, talking about his son, Lil X. Whenever he says that about like his son, I always think of Dr. Evil and Mini-Me. That's y'all's news update. By the way, Joy Reid is back on the news. That's another reason for joy. But y'all, listen, even though we're living through an administration that is still doing everything it can to reassure its most racist base that it still has its foot on its neck, we are still stepping into a new dimension, one where we're not last, we're sovereign, where we acknowledge the fact that we're sacred, that we are free, and that we are powerful. This is our justice. This is the kind of justice that no court could ever grant. No one could ever give us this freedom. The 92% was political in origin, but we needed this defeat for us to realize that, yeah, we're doing all this political work and all this political labor in order to kind of beg for freedom. Like, we'll do the work, we'll give the money, we'll do the signs, we'll do the calling. And of course, Black women are always going to be politically responsible. I'm not saying we're not going to vote. Indeed, we're the only ones that have like a track history of voting like we mean it. But in the past, what we were doing, because we were conditioned to do it, was to think that in order to be free, we had to beg for it, we had to work for it. All while never being acknowledged. You know, MAGA, at least they got hats and all that. We're the backbone of our party. Did y'all know that? We don't get nothing. No acknowledgement, no nothing. But we thought if we work hard enough, that'll bring enough people over to actually uphold the principles that are in the Constitution, that are in the Bill of Rights, in the Declaration of Independence. No, we had to take our own justice. We had to free ourselves. Again, this is the kind of freedom, the kind of justice no court could ever grant. We had to give it to ourselves. That's why so many of us can see the insanity that's coming out of that goat rodeo of an administration and be like, child, okay, we had to free ourselves. Finally. This is our justice, the kind that no court could ever grant, the kind that we give ourselves. And speaking of kindness and softness and giving to ourselves, this episode is sponsored by my first ever brand partner, Sia Skincare. I am so honored to be officially working with a company that aligns with the 92% values of rest, ritual, and radiance. And a lot of you comment on my skin, on the glow. I can say with all honesty, I've been in love with using their Undaria algae body oil for years. And oh my God, y'all, the citrus hit is so divine. And let me tell you, it is divine My skin feels soft, luminous, and cared for. And you know how seriously Black women of the 92% take our hydration. Our moisturization and our hydration will always come first, okay? And like the 92%, and like the beautiful, bold, the brilliant Black women of the 92%, my skin feels soft, luminous, and cared for. That's so much of what our movement is about. Everything comes out of us taking care of ourselves. So if you are ready to bring a little sacred skincare into your routine, there's a link down in the description to get 10% off your first order. Hey, it's Halicue, all one word, no comma, for your 10% off. Because our skin deserves what your spirit already knows. Softness is strength. Now, before we close, I want to speak very directly to a certain group of listeners. I know y'all are listening because you let me know at dance class and you let me know at my fitness and social club, at like community events. If you feel challenged and inspired, if you believe that Black women are this country's early warning system, and maybe you don't quite fit into this demographic, like maybe you're not here, you don't see yourself here, right? Maybe you see yourself here. Latino women, maybe you see yourself here. White women, maybe that's where you are on the chart. Maybe you don't fit the demo of the 92%, but you're here and you're listening and you're trying to learn. And you know in your spirit that the 92% is righteous and necessary, because I know some of y'all do. Here is something you can do. You can become a paid subscriber over on the Hey It's Halicue Substack. If you're ever unsure how to support Black women of the 92%, how to support this movement, start there. If you feel a little guilty about that Tesla in your driveway, definitely do that. I'm serious as heart attack. I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm serious. If you're watching history shift and wondering how to always stay on the right side of it, that's how. It can be quiet. Just make sure that it's consistent, that it's aligned. This movement is already moving, and your contribution can help amplify its frequency. All right, you beautiful, brilliant Black women of the 92%. Until next time, let joy be the proof, let rest be the revolution, and let Black women of the 92% lead the way forward. As I say every week, for Black women of the 92%, to our accomplices, and to those that love us and support us, all the love in my heart. And to everyone else, and I think you know who you are, I want you to have the day that you voted for.